We all know what over-ear headphones are, and most people have probably seen in-ear ones too. We know their pros and cons. For example, they can sound really good while also isolating us well from the surroundings. But what if we don't want to block out our surroundings and prefer to stay aware of what's happening around us? For example, when we're at home with family or working in an office where we often need to stay in touch with others. Of course, we can use such headphones in just one ear, but that plugged ear canal feeling is uncomfortable and makes us hear ourselves in a rather strange way. And constantly putting them in and taking them out every now and then eventually gets a bit ridiculous. And that's where bone conduction headphones come in handy. They're very comfortable to wear. The battery lasts for many hours, and even though music is playing in them right now, I don't feel disconnected from reality at all, and I can talk to you just as if I wasn't wearing them at all. It feels like a faint radio is playing, but we can all hear each other clearly. On the other hand, if I block even one ear canal with a plug like this, I sound strange to myself and I feel like it's a sign of disrespect toward the person I'm talking to. Just wearing the headband already gives a completely different impression. My ears are fully exposed and people don't have to repeat things to me several times. The headphones came in a sleek white box. The red light strongly highlights one of the features of these headphones. This lighting may appeal to people who will use them while moving around after dusk, in traffic, or while running. Although in reality this light is not as strong as the packaging suggests, it should still have some impact on improving our safety. Of course, you can turn it off from the app. The most important features of the product are listed on the back of the packaging. Music and call control using head movements, 20 hours of battery life, a system that reduces wind noise during calls, and water resistance with an IP67 rating, which allows immersion up to 1 meter deep for up to 30 minutes. Let's move on to unboxing the set. A constant feature is the small box inscribed with the year 1936, making it worthwhile to revisit this Finnish brand's history. It turns out that in that year, Suunto started making compasses and later specialized in measuring devices for divers. Of course, at first these were typical analog devices, but as technology developed, this brand was able to boast one of the first dive computers already back in the 80s. The next period brought evolution, and that's how more and more advanced wristwatches were created, which we now know as smartwatches. The headphone segment is new for the brand, but the quality, precision and trust that Suunto is known for give high hopes for a solid product, so all the more reason to get back to them. The set of included documents is mostly in 2 languages, Chinese and English, but more detailed documentation is available online and it's entirely in Polish. The packaging bottom features 2 more compartments labeled with pictograms. One box contains a USB cable with a magnetic connector for directly charging the headphones, as well as high-quality earplugs placed in a plastic case. A soft drawstring pouch is a nice addition that protects the set during transport and storage. The Suunto headphones impress right away. The aesthetics and quality of the materials are really top-notch. They're relatively lightweight, weighing just 33 grams. They have a large headband design that wraps around the back of your head. Additionally, we rest them on our auricles, but in such a way that the drivers don't go directly into the ear canals, because this is a bone-conductive design, or if you prefer in Polish, based on bone conduction, which means our ears remain uncovered, while the sound itself reaches us through micro-vibrations. This in itself is an interesting topic that we'll come back to later, but first let's take a look at the design itself. The flexibility and durability are provided by a titanium band hidden inside the silicone, pleasant to the touch outer layer. The thicker part of the headphones houses the batteries and all the electronics, including the buttons, lighting, magnetic pogo pin for charging, and the near-field communication pairing spot. The buttons are clearly marked with a plus symbol and a power icon, as well as a minus. There is also another multifunction button on the left side of the headphones. To ensure high-quality voice calls, the manufacturer decided to use 2 microphones here. The bottom one picks up our voice, while the side one captures and effectively reduces background noise. Large Suunto logos are printed on the front in white or black, depending on the case color. An integral part of the set is a 40-gram base that serves as a power bank. The magnet at the pins makes it easier to position them correctly and start charging, but the left earbud does not have such a magnet. When they rest on the desk, it's perfectly fine, but if you throw them into a backpack, it's very likely they'll get disconnected. That's why it's worth using the included plastic clip to keep both elements tightly together in this case. The charging station uses a USB Type-C port, but no cable was included. Pressing the large SUUNTO button lets us check the charging station's battery level. 3 buttons are more than enough to operate the device efficiently. Plus and minus are used to adjust the volume as usual. Hold the plus button for 3 seconds to power the headphones on or off. Hold the minus button to control or change the lighting mode. Holding both buttons simultaneously for 3 seconds puts the headphones into pairing mode, although you can achieve the same result by holding the plus button longer while turning them on. We can also move the smartphone near the near-field communication tag. Well, if the biggest problem users have is remembering how to put their headphones into pairing mode, it's better to give them 3 options. Frustration goes down and satisfaction goes up. Offering many options and attentive care is always appreciated. The multifunctional button on the left side pauses and resumes playback. Double-clicking it skips to the next track, and triple-clicking goes back to the previous one. Holding it down, on the other hand, activates the voice assistant. During phone calls, the same button will answer or end the call. But that's not all, because the headphones have a built-in gyroscope. By enabling the feature in the manufacturer's app or holding the universal and minus buttons, we activate head gesture control. I'm not really super convinced by them myself. Nodding your head to answer a call or shaking it to skip to the next track from a third person's perspective looks like we might need professional help. On the other hand, I really appreciate the fact that even though I don't see myself using this feature very often, maybe not at all, I can imagine that someone doing physical work and constantly having their hands busy would find this feature a lifesaver. The only downside is that this feature shortens battery life by as much as 15%. Getting back to technical topics, just like with standard headphones, where the size of the drivers and what they're made of plays a significant role, in this technology it works completely differently. Despite this, according to the manufacturers, they achieve a frequency response range from 20 Hz to 20 kHz. On paper, this means the quality is comparable to typical in-ear headphones. A sensitivity of 117 decibels is a strong result, and the codec greatly affects sound quality. Wing uses a better codec, aptX Adaptive, found in high-end devices. The solution from Qualcomm, the manufacturer of top processors for smartphones, is extremely flexible. In this version, aptX adapts to our needs and conditions at any time. When listening to music from streaming services, such as Spotify, YouTube Music or Apple, the transfer reaches 420 kilobits per second, which is more than enough for the quality these services can actually provide. The advantage of the codec used here comes from its ability to reduce latency when it detects that we're watching a video or playing a game. At that point, the transfer rate does drop to 280 kilobits per second, but we gain an almost unnoticeable input lag. Here you can see a recording from the test run while playing a video. The headphones were paired with a desktop that supports aptX Adaptive. Here we can see that the sound starts perfectly at the moment when the ball, seen in the clip, bounces off the surface. The delay is nearly zero. Of course, for compatibility with older devices, the headphones are also equipped with the sub-band codec. For example, it's useful for iPhone users. Let's talk about the app now, and although it's not necessary to use the headphones, it's practical. The Suunto app itself is quite extensive, but we have to remember that it's not dedicated only to the headphones but to all the other devices offered by this brand. They already have dive watches, dive computers and smartwatches. The app was designed and built mainly with those devices in mind. However, to manage the headphones, we first have to go into our profile, and only there will we find the My Headset tab. In the sound mode menu, there are 2 settings available, normal and outdoor, so the headphones can adjust the frequency range to the environment and allow for even higher volume. At higher volumes, the vibrations are so strong they cause a strange sensation. It may sound silly, but I feel a tickling sensation in my ears. You can turn on headphone lighting in the app. The red LEDs can stay on all the time, but they can also blink steadily or send out cool Save Our Souls light signals. It looks impressive, but it also uses extra energy. The app also lets you activate the mode for connecting to 2 devices. multipoint, which I'm talking about, is one of my favorite and most desired features. Thanks to it, we can be paired with a computer and a smartphone at the same time, or with two smartphones, or a smartphone and a tablet, it doesn't matter. When we use the computer, its sound plays through the headphones. But when the phone rings, we can answer the call and talk through the same headphones, without any hassle. It's the same when, for example, I want to take a short break from work or simply go out to walk the dog. I turn on music or a podcast on my phone and I'm off. I'm gone. With most headphones, you usually have to either turn off Bluetooth on your computer or turn the headphones off and back on in pairing mode. And even then you might not make it in time and they'll pair with your computer again instead of your phone. No, that's a failure. Life's too short for that nonsense. Here, it works beautifully. I return from a break with coffee, sit at my computer, pause my phone and play on my computer. That's it. It may seem minor, but it's very important to me and greatly improves my comfort. And speaking of comfort, bone conduction headphones are supposed to be very comfortable by design because they don't cover or squeeze your ears, nor do they block your ear canals. So right away, you don't get that unpleasant feeling of your ears being squeezed, tired or sweaty, and your ear canal can breathe normally. As a result, we also feel much more comfortable with this fact. I think everyone knows what it's like to talk on the phone using in-ear headphones. We experience blocked ears, causing us to hear ourselves differently than usual. Here, the feeling is completely different because nothing is bothering us. We feel comfortable and we can have a normal face-to-face conversation over a landline phone or an intercom. And that's even when music is playing in the background. In this respect, bone conduction headphones outperform any other solution, but the issue of comfort doesn't end there because the headphones rest on your ears, and I have to say that only after a few hours did I have to take them off and massage the spots where they touch the skin a bit. Fatigue sets in quicker on warmer days, so it's not perfect and you can definitely feel something hanging there. I also want to stress that the comfort is still far greater than with over-ear or in-ear headphones. I could wear these for 12 hours a day, only taking a few minute breaks, and that was completely enough. You can do all sorts of sports in these headphones, at least the ones that don't require you to wear a big full helmet. A bike helmet is fine, I checked, and it really doesn't get in the way at all. Getting hit in the head with a ball during sports or having someone accidentally pull on the band can be quite unpleasant. If we want to practice on our own, I don't see a problem. However, when it comes to running, I'm not fully convinced about them, at least not in winter and not on windy days. Running in warm climates or on a treadmill is fine. Then they might be a better solution than other types of headphones, as long as you don't mind the surrounding sounds. Okay, and what about wearing some kind of headgear? A baseball cap isn't an issue, but its large back band can make wearing it with a winter hat uncomfortable. It also depends on how snugly the hat fits your head. A loose one works better in that case, though it's not perfect. Actually, that band at the back is the part I like least about this design, and if it were possible to adjust its length or buy a different size, it could be a completely different story. Much depends on your head shape and hair length or style. For me, there's quite a bit of space left there. But it's not a problem, at least until I lean back against a headrest or the collar of a shirt or jacket. Then it pulls on my ears and it's definitely not comfortable. Hoodies, however, don't interfere, which is a plus. Of course, when the headband gets in the way, one solution is to raise it higher, but that changes the position of the drivers in relation to our inner ear, which in turn lowers the volume and the quality of the sound we hear. Funny enough, you can even wear them in such a way that the drivers are pointed at your earlobes, and I have to say, the audio quality is actually even better then, and the volume increases significantly too, but they quickly slip off when worn like that. It's also worth mentioning that they don't cause any problems when worn with glasses. One day, I wore them for 12 hours and couldn't tell if I had glasses on or not. The manufacturer states 10 hours as the maximum battery life with the LED lighting turned on. I'm convinced that most of you will turn off this feature, and I can say that this way you'll be able to get 15.5 hours of use. Even with long-lasting headphones, being able to check battery status is invaluable. 3 or 4 bars would be completely enough, just like on the base station, but in this model, the manufacturer went all out and the charge level is shown with 1% accuracy. On one hand, okay, full respect, but on the other hand, who really needs that? In my opinion, that's quite an exaggeration. Over all those hours, the level gradually drops percent by percent. When the charge level drops to 10%, a warning sound plays in the headphones every few minutes, and the LEDs indicate that recharging is needed. Dropping from 10% to 0 takes another hour and 25 minutes, which is incredible. Meanwhile, the base station is enough to recharge the batteries twice. Thus, although the manufacturer states 20 hours as the total operating time on the packaging, in reality and seriously without any effort or tricks, for me that time was about 40 hours. No doubt that's a big difference, but the manufacturer likely calculated that time with the LEDs and head gesture controls on, which I had turned off. When it comes to charging the headphones, here too there's a very positive surprise. Based on my measurements, it takes just 30 minutes to fully charge the battery. Thanks to fast charging, plugging them in for just 10 minutes adds about 5 hours of playback. That's something that really makes me happy. I've already mentioned that the headphones are great for making voice calls. My callers thought that the microphone quality was perfectly fine and practically indistinguishable from the microphone built into my smartphone. You can likely hear the difference between the Rode microphone and these headphones. We've already discussed the supported codec, which can satisfy even the most demanding users. However, these are not standard headphones, so the bitrate or the technical specs themselves, no matter how excellent they look on paper, in reality, well, they sound different. I have to admit the audio quality isn't as good as regular headphones. You already know that the comfort of use, the level of fatigue, or the ability to coexist with other people in the workplace with this type of headphones is on a much higher level than any other personal music listening solutions invented so far. For this comfort, we pay the price, which is the quality of the audio we receive. This fact should by no means disqualify this product, we just need to adjust our expectations here. After all, you can't have everything, and here we're making a compromise. We accept lower sound quality in exchange for unblocking our ears, much greater comfort, and the ability to coexist with others. For times when we want better audio quality, the manufacturer has included earplugs that block external sounds and, surprisingly, enhance the clarity of sounds reaching our inner ear. The product is good, it's just that its use is different than many people might think. If you expect from them exactly the same as from in-ear or over-ear headphones, meaning complete isolation from the outside world that lets you immerse yourself in music full of deep bass and clear highs, then let me be clear, you are deeply mistaken and you will be disappointed. If you want to enjoy music, radio, audiobooks or podcasts all day while doing daily tasks, this type of headphones is just what you need. It's a pity that audio quality isn't one of their strengths, but it's exactly the same situation with all other headphones that use bone conduction, and I doubt anything could technically change here in the future. They simply sound different, but they are perfectly sufficient for listening to the radio, background music, podcasts, or even television, and this technology definitely makes sense. I've personally noticed more and more people using these headphones in the office, in security. I even know a painter who uses them, and I've seen the head chef in my cafeteria wearing them a few times as well. It's a different brand, but he wears them non-stop at work, likely listening to something that improves his day while still engaging with his co-workers, making everyone happy. That's why this device is different than it might seem at first. And even though sound quality isn't its strongest point, everything else about it is. So, if comfort is important to you, and you value not having that unpleasant feeling of blocked ears, as well as being able to easily talk with others, I'm sure that after a few dozen minutes you'll overlook the audio quality and still be satisfied with it. So, are they worth it? If you watched this review closely, you likely know if they're for you. As always, check the video description for the current price. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to visit my website at www.techmaniacsg.pl. Thanks to the intuitive menu, you'll definitely find more content there that will inspire you. See you in the next one.